Hello, this is Real World Audio, and I'm answering Tiago's question. And he is asking out of curiosity, is it possible to have a loudspeaker with efficiency higher than 100 dB that works well in small rooms? And if yes, are there aspects of the design one should look for to find something that could work in a small room that's around 12 to 16 square meters? For example, Las Scalas could maybe work as they don't have deeper bass, but a follower here has commented it also had other issues. So thank you, Tiago, and now let's have a little look at that. And now let me see Las Scalas. Let's have a look at the Klipsch Las Scalas. So here they are. I'm just looking at the Klipsch website. So that's how they look like. And you see that they are shown in a ginormous room. And this is like absolutely huge. There's something like, what's that? Maybe like 15 feet or something like 4 or 5 meters between those two speakers. So this is really an enormous room. Of course we could put them in a smaller room, but this is something that they would feel really comfy about. And here I'm just like to, I was hunting for the actual size of them, and there's this 7review.com site, and that finally listed their actual size because I couldn't find it on Klipsch's site. And look at the description. So it soon became official as a Klipsch product, selling as an auditorium speaker. So it was not really designed as a mini monitor or like a small room speaker. In fact, it was like Paul Klipsch designed it for Rockefeller to be used as a public address speaker for a gubernatorial campaign. So that part of a loudspeaker design, like for what size room they are designed, that's really critical. So basically this was designed for auditorium size rooms. And where were we? Like we had an example here, so that would fit like Paul Klipsch's original design criteria. Look, here they have a Heathkit W6. Yay! That's really a great choice here. So just going back to how big these are, because there's lots of people reviewing these speakers, and in smaller rooms, like for example Andrew Robinson was reviewing them, and he was totally all over the moon with them in a much smaller room than this. But his only comment about them was that they are ginormous and even bigger than you think about it, how big they could be. So bigger than what you would think in your wildest dreams. And why is that? Let's look at something which is, you would think that they are of similar size, the Klipsch Cornwall 4s. And then if you can imagine that, look at that. So it's like there's the equipment, there's a tube amp. It looks like a miniature baby something in between. That reel-to-reel decks, which are really big. It looks like it's kind of a toy between the two Cornwalls. And here, that's why people would think that they are not as big speakers, because you don't get the scale. Because you think that this is something small. No, this is something really big in the middle, but those giant speakers make this look like toys. And here we have the camera angle, which enlarges the equipment rack, and it makes the speaker look smaller. But this one will give you a better, it has a better perspective showing us what's going on. So now, as giant as these Cornwall 4 speakers are, they are literally like toddlers next to the Las Scalas, because the Las Scalas are about the same width as these guys are, but they are taller, and also the Las Scalas are deeper than wide. And look at here, the Cornwalls are kind of shallow compared to how wide they are. Um, and even though they are huge and enormous, if you put them close to the wall, they you can kind of fit them in a medium-sized room. But for the Las Scalas, you cannot back them to the wall. They are going to stick out like crazy. And that's something that doesn't really show in a picture, because here we have the huge room. But when you have a 12 square meter room, so basically like 3 meter by 4 meter, or like going to the yard system or feet system, uh, it's like let's say like 10 feet by 15 feet, something like that. In that case, if you have like 2 feet by 2 feet by over 3 feet cube squeezed into like a like a 12-foot wide, that's just like I'm really losing my words here, and my tongue gets twisted like thinking about that sizes. So visually it is enormous, and it's so big that probably you will have a problem even bringing them into a room. Probably you have to unpack the crate before you bring them into your house, so they quite likely barely clear your door to get into the living room. And I can say something like that because my speakers, these are not small speakers by any measure. They are not as wide as the Las Scalas. The Las Scalas are even a little wider than they, like instead of this they are like this. But my speakers are quite a bit taller. The Las Scalas may be just like this tall compared to what I have here, but they would be also deeper, so I would have to pull them out quite a bit, well, not quite a bit more, but a little bit more, like 4 inches more compared to my babies here. But even that, because they are so deep and wider, that would optically make them look even more uh, bigger. And that's something that if you have a huge room, it's okay, but in a small size room, they would absolutely dominate the room. And it's not just a question of vision and taste and what do you like and how far your sense of aesthetic goes, but you won't be able to fit in the room after that. So you put those two speakers there, and they will be sitting so close that you will have trouble putting your equipment in between them, and they will be all cramped up. Look here, I'm having these guys set up here. They are 9 feet away, so like almost 3 meters between. And when I'm talking about how far they are set up, I'm talking about center to center. So basically, I'm talking about a little over 11 feet between the outside of one cabinet to the outside of the second cabinet. So basically, if your room is like 3 meters wide, then we are already going over the limits of the room, so we need to like cramp up the speakers closer together. And sure, we can put them together, but I noticed that if I put them any closer than this, it kind of feels like the sound is shrinking, and I'm getting much less of them. And now I'm going to one other aspect of loudspeakers, how you can think about the sizing. and that aspect of the loudspeakers to produce mid bass. And when you have a larger cone and wider baffle, then they produce stronger mid bass. And mid bass production of a loudspeaker is what dominates how far you can or you should position them from one another. So basically, the stronger the mid bass capability of a loudspeaker and the more efficient they are, the further away they like to sit from each other. So the distance between the two speakers gets bigger. And now you can see that the mirages there are so much smaller than those ones. Now where they are, that's their preferential position. So they are 6 feet from each other. So basically there's like 2 meters distance between the center of the drivers. And when I put bookshelf speakers or the AOs, they want to sit in between. So a bookshelf speaker likes to sit here and there. So the distance between them is a little under 5 feet, and that's where they are most comfortable. And if I put them closer together, then the image just shrinks too much. And if I pull those bookshelves further apart, then the center feel starts to go away. So that's how you can find out what is the optimal distance between the two speakers, that you put them close together and wider, wider, wider. And when you notice that you have the best mid bass, but you still have a strong center focus, center feel, then that's an optimal distance between the two loudspeakers. And when you have smaller loudspeakers in a smaller room, you can find their optimal position. But when you have these speakers, they want to speak even like the Mirage size, these are 89 dB efficient loudspeakers, they want to sit like this distance from each other, like 2 meters, 6 feet. And this is pretty much the biggest thing that you can put into that size room that we are talking about, like a smaller size room. And if you want to put something bigger, like these fellows, then we run out of space to get optimal sound. And then it will kind of sound like putting a race car, like driving a race car that has a too strong engine, but the brakes don't work. That's kind of like the feeling that you get. It's that they are just hyper massively overloading the room. And unfortunately, that's what happens for all loudspeakers which are over 100 dB efficient. If you put them in a small room, it's a feat, and most likely it's going to be a very, very tough thing and not really work. Although I would say probably if you put in a lot of research and a lot of time and toying around, everything can be made to work, but I cannot comment on it yet because I have not tried it. And I have like smaller room upstairs, but I can guarantee to everyone I'm not going to move these speakers upstairs because it's impossible. They are heavier than I am, and when I build them, I finish the assembly right here in the living room. Otherwise I couldn't have brought them in from the garage where I started their building process into the living room. They're just too big for that. So I think, Tiago, that this is my little bit longer answer for your question, is that unfortunately I know of no way how to fit in a 100 dB or higher efficient loudspeaker into a small room. I would say into a small room the most comfortable range is like a 92 to 94 dB efficiency. That's the highest it can handle, because I have my void pipes which are about 95, 96 dB efficient, and I can tell you that they kind of work in a smaller room, but in a medium big room they just transform. So in a small room, they sound like a mid lower level loudspeaker, and in a medium to big room they sound like amazing loudspeakers from the next century. So basically this has been my experience so far, that small rooms don't like high efficiency big loudspeakers, and if you can make them work, you are getting maybe like 2% of what they are capable to perform, and using something that's between 92 to 94 dB will be much more useful than going for ultra efficiency. So thank you everyone for tuning in. Thank you, Tiago, for your questions. Sorry it took quite a while to answer it. Have an awesome day. Bye bye.